China unveiled a new plan recently. It hopes we'll see about 50 million children and adults playing soccer by the end of the decade. That's all part of the country's goal to develop into a world football power by 2050. We will talk more about that later in the show, but we begin with a football story that's captured the attention of sports fans all over the globe. Leicester City's extraordinary journey from no-hopers to being crowned champions of Britain's Premier League. We begin with this report from CCTV's John Gilmore.
An explosion of ecstasy. The moment Leicester City players knew they'd won the title. Across the small English city, fans raw pride and joy at their heroes' unlikely triumph.
Unbelievable, and we've done it. We've absolutely done it. Buzzing.
To mention Leicester City in the Champions League in the same sentence is just unbelievable, fella.
No one could imagine this less than a year ago, when they were written off as 5,000 to 1 complete outsiders. But they lifted the trophy last weekend to wrap up a magical season, winning the title in one of the world's toughest and most prestigious football leagues. And they did it on a shoestring budget.
Our squad's cost next to nothing, whereas obviously you likes of Man City, Chelsea, all the other so-called big boys are spending millions and millions and millions.
Their top goal scorer, a former factory worker. Now Jamie Vardy's story could become a Hollywood movie. Their player of the year, Algerian Riyad Mahrez, accidentally discovered by a club recruiter. Their Italian coach, Claudio Ranieri, dismissed as the wrong man for the job, now basking in glory.
Oh, it's fantastic, fantastic. Terrific.
Leicester's amazing victory has become an international success story too, with thousands of fans cheering them on in Thailand, home of the team's owners, and becoming an inspiration to followers as far away as Africa.
They've shown that being an underdog, anything can happen, and whatsoever you have in your mind to do, then you can achieve it, and I like that about them.
But most of all, they are hometown giants, legends who will live forever in Leicester lore. John Gilmore, CCTV.
And for more now on this fairy tale story, joining me from Leicester is the city's mayor, Sir Peter Soulsby. Also with me here in the studio is Tom Gagan. He is a feature writer with BBC News. Welcome to both of you to the show. Mayor, let me start with you. Here's a story that's caught the imagination of the world, even here in the United States, which, as you know, is not big on soccer. It's been on television, it's been on the front pages of big newspapers. So put this in perspective for us. How big is this for Leicester City and its football fans?
Well, it's bigger, I think, than any of us ever anticipated. Obviously, we knew there was a lot of interest in soccer across the world, but I don't think any of us realised just how big the Premier League was and just how big a story it was. You described it as a fairy tale. Well, it looks like that from here as much as it does from the rest of the world. This was something that none of us ever expected.
Tom, you know, we all kind of like underdogs, or most of us do, and we like to see underdogs emerging victorious. Here's a story that's drawn international attention. It's all over the place, as I said, even here in the United States. Why is it so big internationally?
Well, I think really it's everyone can relate strongly to a team that overcomes these kind of odds. 50,000 to 1 Leicester were at the start of the season. Everyone had written them off. And I think what it teaches us all, whether you're into sport or you're not, is that anything is possible. It's amazing how much interest there's been on the front pages of the US papers. But one of the problems I had was trying to explain to Americans what the equivalent was in American sport, and we couldn't really come up with one, which just goes to show how rare an event it is.
Well, that's interesting. What is the closest comparison you came up with?
Well, I think some people were talking about Oakland Athletics, which was the famous Moneyball film was made out of their success. They went on a winning run, but they didn't win the equivalent of the English Premier League title at the end of it. Others said, well, this wasn't really possible because there's no promotion or relegation in American sports. Yeah. So it would be like a AA baseball team miraculously working their way up the divisions and finding themselves in the World Series and winning at the end of it.
Mayor, when we look at this, it has all the makings of a David versus Goliath story, and in a sense, is this a story that actually transcends football?
Oh, I think it does. It's the classic from zero to hero, it's been described as. Just 12 months ago, this city was busy burying the remains of King Richard III, the last King of England to die in battle. And at that time, our football team was 7 points adrift at the bottom of the Premier League. And here we are now, far ahead at the end of this season, untouchable now, and that story is one that inspires people, even those who would never bother in normal circumstances to watch a soccer match.
Right, and as you told us, we know how the good people of Leicester feel about this, but why do you think it's so big internationally?
Oh, I think it is this mouse of Leicester defeating the giant, and it's also because, of course, so much of the Premier League is dominated by big names and big money, and here we are without the big names and without the big money, showing that actually it's teamwork that can do it, with an inspiring manager in Claudio Ranieri, and that message that the small guys can, if they pull together as a team, beat the very best and the most expensive in the world, is something that is obviously important to us here in Leicester, but is something of a message that the rest of the world has taken to its heart.
Tom, that's a great point. I mean, here's a team that's done it without the big money of the glamour clubs. In that sense, has Leicester changed our view of how this game is run and how things are done?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, in England, since the Premier League was set up in 1992, there's only been 5 winners up until Leicester. There's a really tight-knit, the elite clubs really have a tighter grip on the title, and success is rewarded with more money in England, and that breeds success because then you buy the best players. But now along come Leicester, and they show that at the beginning of the season, without anyone there were no household names in that team, but they've shown that if everyone hits their potential with a good manager, everything can come into place, and David can really slay Goliath in that sense. So I think everyone, my team, Crystal Palace, is probably thinking next season this could be us.
Right.
So I think it's had a profound effect on the way we look at English football.
Right, and those names have now become household names, right? Mayor, we see in England, and we see in Europe as well, the challenge that they face over diversity, over integration. And here we have a team, Leicester City, a diverse set of players. You have an Algerian star, an Italian coach, black and white players. It's a great mix. How much does that do for a city like Leicester, which is itself a melting pot, and beyond, for that matter?
Yeah, it's very interesting because we have seen the team very much as reflecting what we think is great about this city of Leicester. We are probably the most diverse city in terms of the communities and the origins of the people who have made their home here of any city in Europe. That's something we're very proud of, and we see that very much reflected in the team, in the success that they've been having on the football field, but also in the way in which we as a city are, well, I think, punching above our weight as a team in a city.
Tom, this wasn't just about luck, was it? I mean, we call it a fairy tale. I mean, it's very nice. It's a great story, etc. But at the end of the day, it was a triumph of hard work, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's about a triumph of the human spirit as much as it is about scoring goals and putting a ball in the back of a net. I mean, there's certain luck involved in the sense that the best players weren't injured. Many other teams suffer that kind of misfortune. But no, I think it really was about hard work and players really believing in themselves and believing in each other, and having a city behind them that really gave them the extra impetus as well that they needed to make things happen.
If we look at some of the big names now in Leicester City, I mean, what was their background? Where did they come from?
Well, Mahrez was one of their star players, one of the 3 Leicester players who was up for Player of the Season. And the story goes that when he was approached initially, when he was playing abroad, he didn't even know that Leicester had a football team because they were associated with rugby. But he came along. Jamie Vardy's come up through the ranks of English football, and he's now become the talisman of the side. And they've got they've bought very well, but they've also got a great mix of young English talent, some of whom we could be seeing on the European stage in next month at the Euros. So they've got a real mix of international and local players who have brought together this perfect blend, really.
Right. And Mayor, for you personally, what was the feeling like when you saw that sea of fans, just a whole flanks of people in Leicester celebrating their team's victory?
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, obviously, very proud of the team, what they've achieved, but very proud also of this city, because the way in which they've backed this team over the last 12 months or more has been really quite amazing, and I think has been an important ingredient of the success that we've seen on the pitch. It really is a combination of those supporters and that team and the inspired leadership of the manager that has brought the success that they've got, and we all feel part of the success and enormous pride at what they've achieved.
Right, and your city has also become a household name in Thailand. Now, we saw those celebrations taking place in Thailand. Of course, it's a Thai that owns the team.
It is. I mean, we've had that obviously support in Thailand that you might expect, you know, with the ownership resting there in Thailand. But we've also had similar support in the most unexpected of places across Europe, in North America, of course, and in far-flung places that we didn't realise had even heard of football. Never mind follow the amazing team that we've got.
Tom, of course, now the bar is set higher for Leicester, isn't it?
It is, you see, because now you have expectations.
Right.
So, but they're going to be playing in the Champions League next season. So the supporters have got a lot to look forward to. They could be seeing the likes of Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, they have to be a bit careful. And Ranieri, the manager, has already said, look, we're not going to do this again next year probably. So we have to be realistic. But this is the fun part as well, is just enjoying being the defenders of the title and having European football with some of the legends of the game coming to Leicester.
Do you think they can do it again?
I think it's going to be very hard. I think a lot of the other bigger teams are going to be in a better place next season than they were this. But they've shown that they can do it once, so you never know.
And of course, the message they have sent to other underdog teams is that we can do it too. So the competition is going to be even fiercer.
Exactly. You know, it could have a galvanising effect on all the other smaller teams. And, you know, that invincibility about the top 4 teams, the top 4 or 5 teams, that's shattered now, really, isn't it? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And Mayor, what's next? How long are the celebrations going to continue? I understand that there is a civic celebration as well that's coming up.
There's going to be, well, there's been one big party over the last 2 weeks. We're doing a very big event next Monday after the end of the season, and then perhaps a little bit of a time to recover as a city. But then, as Tom was saying, we're then looking forward to welcoming teams from across Europe as we go on. And you know, last year, 12 months ago, they never believed we could do it once. Well, who knows? Perhaps we can do it twice.
And good luck to that. So Peter Soulsby, Tom Geoghegan, thanks to both of you for joining us.